Hey guys, so Akibu here, and today's video gonna be talking about how to become sub-15 on the Rubik's Cube. So before the video start, I just gonna mention something. Now, if one of my tips is not worked for you, please don't mad at me. I will provide some of the useful videos which is also the same topic of this video. I'll link them in the description because those videos maybe will be helpful for you. Anyway, let's get started. Now, to becoming a sub-15 solver, the first thing that very important in my opinion, which is the cross transition. Sometimes I found that some people they use their inspection not wisely. For example, when their inspection about the cross, they only inspect like only 2 to 3 edges instead of 4 of them. So for example, here's what it looks like. So yeah, that could be cause a lot of lockup and maybe slow your times a lot. And this is not a very good to every solver. So what I recommend is use inspection wisely and then try to inspect all of cross edges, and this is how it looks like. So yeah, eventually you practice that and you might get used to it. And also a good tips is that if you have more times, try inspect a first F12 pair because it's very helpful. Yeah, and that's the first tip. The second tips, which is mostly important of all of this video, which is look ahead. Now, for every keeper who want to break sub-15 barrier, your look ahead must be very good. I mean, not perfectly good, but at least to be good. Now, to practice look ahead, you can practice like solving slowly but not pausing it. That's the way how to practice. I'll be providing three ways to how to practice look ahead. The first way to practice look ahead, which is a very standard one, is basically you solve the whole cube slowly without pausing it. Here's what it looks like. And once you got the concepts of that, you can try increase the speed to like improve the speed. And once you kept on practicing and you got a little bit of confidence, you can try timing yourself as well, because once you like timing yourself, you will notice you improved a lot. By the way, on good tips, which is when you are practicing like look ahead, solving slowly without pausing it, try not to rotate the cube 2 times. So like when you solve it the times, rotate and then rotate again. Just try not to do that. Try to do less than two times. So because when you turn around the cube, it's actually you're wasting about a 0.5 seconds, something like that. So it is good to control a less rotation. So yeah, that's the good advice when you are practice look ahead. The other way to practice look ahead is a very old way, I think, which also works for me a lot, especially when I was in competition, which is solving big cubes first before getting into 3x3. For example, you can solve big cubes from 4x4 to 7x7. For example, I like to solve 4x4, so like before I get into 2x3, I will solve at least 4 to 6 times of 4x4, and then I'll get right back to the 3x3. Now, what is the concept of solving big cubes? Because additionally, when you're solving big cubes, you like tend to watch every single pieces where they go as fast as you can, because kind of like forcing you or something. And once you have that sort of concept, and when you immediately move to 3x3 and you use the same concept, and you'll eventually notice that your look ahead will be much better. So solving big cubes before solving 3x3 definitely helps a lot. And the last way to practice look ahead, which in my opinion for me is not as great as works for me, but I do think this way still works for some people out there. So which is solving as fast as you could, like you're solving crazy fast. Now here's the explanation. In my opinion, I'm not really agree on that, but there do some people who prefer this way. For example, Max Par, his look ahead just crazy. Now I'm also gonna be talking about something, is that solving slowly without pausing it and solving very fast but pause a lot is actually about the same TPS. So why don't you prefer solving slowly rather than solving very fastly? Now once again, I say that this way might be useful to someone else, but mostly of them I think they're not good. So in my opinion, just go ahead and solve it slowly, learn more efficient F2L cases, and then yeah. So now on to the third tips, which is the last layer solution, I would call like that. For those who are full PLO and full OLO, you can basically just ignore these tips. But for those someone who haven't learned all of them, which is the full OLO and full PLO, you have to watch this. So it's very important to learn them all, because you can solve it immediately without wasting any, like maybe 0.3 to 0.7 seconds, I don't know. It's just very important. Also, one thing to note that in previous video, which is 2017, I posted about how to become Sub-15. I remember one of my tips is saying learning skipping method. Unfortunately, I've done some research and watched some YouTube video. Learning skipping method does not help a lot, cause it might get confused and slow down your solves. So it is good to not learning skipping method yet before you are not Sub-15. After you're Sub-15, it's up to you to whether you want to learn it or not. Well, in my opinion, it's still very good. It's still a little bit useful though. So if you have a very strong muscle memory, then you can try learn it. Yeah. Oh, also I forget to mention about the last layer solution tips, which is I'm giving you some good advice about this one, which is try to find out something that is comfortable with you. So let's start off the algorithm first. For example, this JPerm here, every time I do this case, I don't like to do this, because when I was solving, it caused me a lot of lockups and slowed down my times a lot. But however, to me, an algorithm that is more comfortable with me, I could do this. So yeah, try and find a comfortable algorithms for you so that your solve could be more fluid. Also, one thing to note that before you're practicing these tips, sorry about that, try find a cube that is more comfortable with you. For example, like Felix broke the world record, he was using the GAN 356 Air SM, and I remember one of my friend, he was very excited because it's a world record cube and I think it's gonna be very great, and he decided to buy it as it was rich. But after that, when he got on his hand, he don't really like it at all, and overall he still love his L-Long V2. I'm not joking, this is serious. So yeah, try and find a cube that is more comfortable with you. Don't need to care about any people who are talking about you, just to note that using a comfortable cube may help you to improve a lot. Now the last tips to break the Sub-15 barrier, which is try aim yourself or set yourself a tiny goal. Now before you get into or practice these tips, make sure you are good enough to practice those events from those tips, sorry about that, from 1 to 3. So this is the tips 4. I recommend you to practice all of them with tips 1 to tips 3, then came back to practice this. Now this is going to be a little bit challenging to every cuber. Now what my recommendation is, try to solve the cross at least 1 to 2 seconds, and let's say the slowest, which is the 2 seconds, and then solving the F12 until 7 to 8 seconds. That's the goal. So let's say it's 8 seconds as is the slowest, and then the last layer you have to solve at least 4 seconds, which is OLO a 2 second, and then the PLO has to be 2 seconds. So 8 plus 2 is 10, and 10 plus 4 is 14, and that's how you forms up a sub-15. Now for those who haven't practiced tips 1 to tips 3, if you want to immediately like practice this tips 4, it could be very challenging, because like you have to solve the cross 1 to 2 seconds. That's very hard, just everything. So make sure you practice those, all of the tips before practicing this. So yeah. By the way, if you have trouble on practicing tips 4 when you are done like confident enough to practice this tips 4, you can try watch people walk resolve. Now what is the concept of watching people walk resolves? Because like you're watching them how they plan out their solution or maybe cases they did, and then you learn from the concepts. So once you got the concepts and then you put it into your solves and then trying to practice the tips 4, you will eventually become very good. Now this practice does take a bit long time, but just don't care about how long it is. Just remember, you are going to break the sub-15 barrier, and doing these practice is totally worth it. So yeah guys, that's all of my tips for helping you to break the sub-15 barrier on the Rubik's Cube. So one thing to mention very quickly is that if these tips doesn't suit for you, please don't mad at me. I'll provide some useful video link in the description which is the same topic as mine. Maybe their video will helpful for you. So yeah, make sure to give a like and subscribe to my channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.